Hello, welcome to SquishiVision. This is my live reaction to the Uncharted official trailer, which I think is the first look we've got at the Uncharted film. I think it might be a first look actually revealed at like a Comic Con or whatever. But I don't know if it actually got released online. So this is my, I guess, as far as I can tell, my first look at it anyway. I'm very tired, as might become apparent in my speech patterns as we go along. In fact, I'm going to take a drink of water to kind of wake me up a bit. So we'll keep this kind of introduction a bit short, but essentially, I guess yeah. So I've played the Uncharted games, all four of them. I absolutely adored them. I think it's one of the games which, if I could wipe my mind of all memory and play again, I absolutely would. It's one of the most cinematic, if not the most cinematic game I have ever played. I think there's, especially in Uncharted 4, there is like moments where we see from gameplay the cinematics and we get shots of these landscapes and you can absolutely feel the scale. But there's a deep narrative, there's excellent kind of character work and acting and dialogue and chemistry, and chemistry. My cats are playing, so ignore the noise in the background. And like the scale of adventure, and yeah, just I played, there's that moment where I finished playing Uncharted 4 and the credits rolled, and I was just like, this is over. I've been through a journey. I played all four games. I guess I think actually in quick in. I actually think I played them all back to back. I think I played the Uncharted. I think I got the Uncharted trilogy, which was the PS4 re-release of the first three games, and then I bought Uncharted 4 straight afterwards, and I played them basically then all four back to back. So I kind of played it as one, continuous narrative, which is so yeah, that was my experience of Uncharted games. Um, So yeah, and I still need to play the what was it, the Lost Legends or whatever, the spin-off game with Chloe and Elena, but I shall get round to. Um, which and that's one of the few. I think that's one of the anyway. So yeah, so I guess with a game franchise already extremely cinematic anyway, it was inevitable that we were going to get a film adaptation at some point, and we are, but also we already have, and I think everyone who's watching this probably is already aware of the Nathan Fillion um, fan film that was released a couple of years ago. And I guess that kind of it says a lot about the quality of that film, that a 50-minute fan film is being compared with a major Hollywood production. And is a serious rival for quality of a film. But that film is so many things right. Casting Nathan Fillion, who is, I mean, literally, I'm really surprised that it comes out that Nathan Fillion was a visual kind of model for Nathan Drake. Because they look so similar. Maybe Nathan Fillion's a bit old now to like he's a bit older than I guess Nate ever was in the games. But even now he looks much closer to the character than. Well, we'll discuss Tom Holland, in the role in a second. But yeah, he looks the part. He sounds the part. Like it's I don't know if it's good acting. I don't know if it's coincidence, but like Nathan Fillion's, because Nathan I don't think did much with his voice that I don't recognize from him from Serenity or Firefly or anything else I've seen him in. So Nathan Fillion and Nathan Drake just have the same kind of accent, voice, delivery, cadence anyway. Similar build, similar kind of humor, like and obviously that's more writing than obviously Nathan Fillion, but it's Nathan Fillion is clearly is good at a certain type of character who's very Nate like in the first place, which I guess is why people always were already making that kind of casting before the fan film. And yeah, and then there's some other things do well. It follows the canon. Like the right, like I watched an interview with directors. They were very kind of keen to ensure that it didn't contradict the game canon to the point where, because they wanted to have the ring on the character, they deliberately chose not to make any references past Uncharted 3 because he obviously uses the ring at the end of Uncharted 3. So they said deliberately between Uncharted 2 and Uncharted 3. Where it would be very easy for a fan film to basically be like, actually, screw the game canon. We'll just, we'll just we'll just do this thing anyway because for fan service, and even if it breaks canon. But no, if it canon, they as a video game film, it scored a lot of points of game fans because it kind of had that whole switch to a game view reference without it being too forced or cheesy. Like, so he this part where he goes into combat and the screen ratio changes as if it's a video game cinematic movie to a gameplay part of the game. It captures a lot of the same dialogue that the game has, but without it being a rip off of any existing game dialogue. So it felt like I was watching a game cinematic. The casting of, I can't remember what his name is now, Stephen Lang, I think, as Sully was okay. I mean, I think his vote, Stephen Lang's voice impression of Sully was spot on. He's not as close. He's not as close visually in appearance to Sully as Fillion is to Drake, but compared to what we're about to see now, miles ahead. So yeah, and then so the casting in this film is probably the thing that people have been the most talking about, and people have criticised Tom Holland being cast, not because I think they dislike Tom Holland, but I think it's kind of clear that Sony banked with a more recognisable actor over someone who represents a character. You could argue, well, he doesn't, the actor doesn't need to look like the video game character because it's his own piece of art. Yeah, I might agree with that, but then you also kind of have reckoned that Fillion does a good job actually portraying the spirit character as well. They did say this is meant to be like a prequel to Uncharted, so I was happy to let it slide. I still am hungry for them to either have cameos or sequels where we have all the Drake and it is different Fillion, and we get to actually canonize him as the actor of different Drake. But like, overall, this is a prequel. And I'm like, well, that's fine. You can't have different Fillion play a prequel era Drake, and we have seen Nathan. And the thing is, the other thing is actually, I'm jumping ahead here. So we have seen Nathan Drake as a child in Uncharted games because there's a couple of flashback scenes. I wouldn't say Tom Holland strikes me as a extraordinary resemblance to the models of the characters, but I think the character model for the child version of Drake is less recognizable than the adult model of Drake, and so I guess people are less bothered. So if we're going for a younger Drake, maybe it will work. It's the casting seems more about name than actual anything else, to be honest. But then again, we will know, I guess, for more clearly when we start watching the trailer, we see how he acts in the role from what we see in the trailer. But what I'm very keen about is that it depends. I mean, obviously this film doesn't have to be in game canon. It could be something completely original, and that's fine, I guess. And I guess I don't know. It won't. I don't think even if me knowing that probably won't help me not be against it breaking game canon narratively. I guess it's probably one of the few video game adaptations I've seen where I'm that aware of the game beforehand. I have played, like, for example, Lara Croft, but I've not played Lara Croft that intensely. And also Lara Croft isn't a single. At least I don't think it is a single game with a single narrative. It's Lara Croft's a very old game. It comes from the time where the gameplay was more important than the narrative, and the narrative was just a set up reason for why, not really the hard. There doesn't need to be deep narrative in it. So you can make a game, a film with a more original narrative because it could just be another adventure of Lara Croft. It's not. Whereas Uncharted came in an era where narrative was much more important in gameplay. So But okay, so let's talk about the other thing. Mark Wahlberg. Actually, let's because I think this is the trailer. Mark Wahlberg as Sully is a much more confusing casting. And I think that's all I'm going to say until after we've watched this trailer, because I might have changed my mind. But come on, he hasn't got a mustache. And we know from the aforementioned flashback scenes in the games, he always had a mustache. But he doesn't. He looks less like Sully than Stephen Lang does. But, you know, hey, let's just go into it and see what happens.
There are places out there you can't find on any map. They're not gone. They're just lost.
Hey, kid. A little young for a bartender, aren't you?
A little old for prom, aren't you?
Everything in here. Why the map?
This is the path that Ferdinand Magellan took to sail around the world.
You know your history.
It's the biggest treasure that's never been found.
5 billion, easy. I think you're here because you're your brother.
Well, you know my brother Sam?
If we find that gold, we find him too.
Who the hell is this?
I'm a friend of Sully's.
Sully doesn't have any friends. I should know him, one of them.
You are a collector.
Well, I dabble.
I don't dabble. My family has been looking for this fortune for a very long time. So much blood.
I'm pretty sure he's just threatened to kill me.
Don't touch your ear like that. You look like an idiot.
You have no idea who you partnered with.
I've been dreaming about this stuff since I was a kid. My brother Sam left one final clue. Oh my God!
I shouldn't have come out to play with the big boys, Ian, because you're about to get a proper Scottish welcome.
What?
Oh, crap!
Exclusively in movie theaters.
I mean, Lily, that's an important. Sorry, my cat's being cute, so yeah. Sorry, where was I? It's interesting that PlayStation has a production studio now. I assume it's a label, really, but that's an interesting kind of brand choice, I guess. And then to kind of add insult to injury, they've got to show you what the characters look like, so you... Yeah. Hang on, I just want to... Okay, while this ad is playing, I'm not going to show the ad because, you know, no. Okay, so it's pretty obvious that it's showing a more original.
There are places out there you can't find on any map.
Yeah,
They're not gone. They're just lost.
Yeah, they're trying to play to my feelings of nostalgia by playing the actual music from the actual Uncharted games, which, to be fair, the tunes in the Uncharted games are pretty great. And then, thankful that, when they stopped doing that so I can actually critique it properly. Yeah, Tom Holland does an excellent American. I see an excellent American accent. The thing about not being American is you can't really tell what's a good American accent, or you can only tell what sounds good to my British ears. But I think most people, well, he keeps getting cast as American, so I guess he's probably good at American accents. Apparently most British people. Apparently it's easier to do for a Brit. Easier for a Brit to do an American accent than it is for an American to do a British accent. But he just sounds like Tom Holland he sounds like an American Tom Holland. So the same accent he does for things like for Spider-Man, then he sounds like Drake does, who has a very particular Northern North voice. You know what I'm saying? And I guess the same for Sully.
Hey kid, a little young for a bartender, aren't you?
Again, he doesn't have that gruffness. And you might say, oh, it's unfair because it's a different actor. Clearly, he's not going to sound the same. But, like I said, Stephen Lang does a pretty good job of getting the right gruffness. And the gruffness of Sully is very distinct and recognizable. Because, it's a voice in the ears of the players for a lot of the gameplay. Because, Sully was the character who was kind of advising Nathan of what to do. So none of the characters really sound right. Angelina Jolie as Lara Croft sounded like Lara Croft. But again, I don't think Lara Croft's ever had one distinct. This is a problem because it's hard to. I keep drawing comparisons with things like Lara Croft, which is another kind of famous video game adaptation. But it's unfair because obviously Lara Croft is adapted from a game coming from an era where the narrative and the acting wasn't the kind of focal point of the gameplay. Whereas the narrative and acting is a focal point of the Uncharted show. So, heck, I think the voice acting of the person who is playing Chloe Sophia Ali is probably more on point than than how Chloe sounds like in the games. But that might just be because she had Chloe in the games because of a very received pronunciation British accent, which is fairly easy to do, I guess, or it's like the default British accent. But yeah, let's just go through this trailer in more detail and pick out what we can find from it again.
A little old for prom, aren't you?
Everything in here. Why the map?
This is the path that Ferdinand Magellan took to sail around the world.
You know your history.
It's the biggest treasure that's never been found.
5 billion, easy. I think you're here because you're your brother.
Well, you know my brother Sam.
And yeah, so this is kind of a deviation from. I mean, so it's I guess possible deviation is established in Uncharted 4 where we introduced Sam that Sam and Sully didn't know each other, but it's implied that Sam and Sully knew each other through Nate. I don't know, that's a bit of a crazy part of the games because Uncharted 3 shows Nate and Sully's first meeting, and Nate was on his own at that point, and it's not really explained why he split off with Sam, who was alive, but they kind of crossed paths again. I think it was always established that Sam never really bonded with Sully the same way that Nate bonded with Sully, so whereas here it's, I don't know, maybe it could fit, but thematically it doesn't seem to. And so it seems to imply we're leading up to a situation where in this film Nate is going to find Sam, but well, I don't know actually, because Nate didn't assume Sam would die. Nate didn't assume Sam was dead until they were both adults. I guess this is meant to be late teen Nathan, so this would set it after Sully and Nate had met, but before Nate assumed Sully was dead. But So maybe there's a period of time where Nate lost Sam and Sully helped them find each other. I guess it's possible. I guess that fits in the narrative. So yeah, maybe. So this shot seems to be a homage, at the very least, to the ending of Uncharted 4. So this is where I'm kind of thinking actually that and the Sam thing, they're kind of telling an original story rather than an origin story, because they're not, I guess, not assuming there's going to be multiple Uncharted films, maybe because ultimately video game films, even high budget blockbuster ones, don't do well enough to necessitate a sequel, or if that even just one. So rather than telling a retelling of the games or telling a prequel in the same narrative, and therefore being removed from any of the game things, they'll just take the best bits of each of the games and fit them as set pieces in an original story, and that seems what they're doing here. So this seems to be kind of, we're going to get this action piece here, so we're not going to get an action piece. It's like someone's going through the same action piece in the same narrative twice, is what I'm saying.
Find that gold. You find him too.
Who the hell is this?
So I think that's meant to be Chloe.
I'm a friend of Sully's.
Sully doesn't have any friends. I should know I'm one of them.
And I guess this is like kind of one of the other reasons why that's a very flying shot why Tom Holland was cast in the role, because Tom Holland is a very accomplished gymnast and an athletic person. He does some degree of his own stunts for Spider-Man, because his background is in gymnastics and dance, and so he has that physicality. I don't know if he's a parkour artist, but I suppose he's got enough training in the arts of things like dance and stuff to transfer over for at least what film needs it to do. So I guess there's no reason why they've cast him, because he has the physicality for the role and the skill set for the role. And yes, fair, some of the bits here look good because of that.
You're a collector.
Well, I dabble.
I don't dabble. My family has been looking for this fortune for a very long time. So much blood.
And then that's obviously the villain.
I'm pretty sure he's just threatening to kill me.
Don't touch your ear like that. You look like an idiot.
You have no idea who you partnered with.
I've been dreaming about this stuff since I was a kid. My brother Sam left one final clue.
And then we get the set piece here, which is taken from Uncharted 3, I want to say. I wouldn't have become the best set pieces of the game, but because they've done it here, they're obviously implying that it doesn't happen in Uncharted 3. Because what chances that Nathan Drake fell out of two aeroplanes.
With a big boys wee because you're about to get a proper Scottish welcome.
What?
I mean, it's a kind of very... I don't want to say offensive, because I think it's just... I don't want to be offended on behalf of the Scots, and I think the Scots can take it. It's a very outdated joke that Scottish, the Scots are hard to understand for simply being Scottish. I mean, there are Scots who are hard to understand. I know a bunch of people who are Scottish who I can't understand at all, because their accent's so thick. There are Geordies I know whose accents are so thick I can't understand them because they just mumble all the time. But for a Scotsman, he is extremely legible. I understood every word he was saying. His accent wasn't thick at all. There's absolutely no way anyone could not understand what that guy is saying, unless you're like the most isolated American ever who's never, which I guess is who this joke is tailored to, is I guess what I'm ultimately saying. Okay, yeah, so I guess I have to give up any dreams of this fitting in the game continuity, but also I guess it's unfair for me to really say it has any obligation to do so. How many other video game adaptations do that? How many other adaptations do that at all? I don't know why I felt like I had to. So as its own independent thing, I don't know. If the games didn't exist, if I hadn't played the games, I don't know how excited I would be for this film. I don't think I would be excited at all. I genuinely don't think I would have any excitement for this film if I wasn't already familiar with the IP. I guess that's why I'm making those comparisons to the IP, because on its own, is it really special from any other action adventure film? And at least other action adventure films have the benefit of being an original. So that's the thing. Other action adventure films are the same vein, but original stories are good because you can watch them with a fresh eye and enjoy it first and read a piece of art. The only reason it's being made, the only reason why people are paying attention to it, the only reason why this is going to get any kind of degree of traction is because it's taken existing IP. But, so I guess that's the thing, all adaptations have to be judged on comparison, because ultimately then that's what otherwise we're going for a free ride. Otherwise, if you just let them, like, they're taking the existing IP, so they need to be judged on what they do with that existing IP. As on thing, I mean, I don't know how excited I would be about it, to be honest. There's nothing particularly in here that like, all the lines that they've put in it are pretty cliched lines. And the Uncharted games did those a couple of times, but it was a video game, they could get away with it a bit more. And B, because you play video games for the immersion, and you kind of want to be those cliched adventure action heroes. And B, they put enough original dialogue into it to kind of filter it out. I'm sure this film has a lot of original dialogue in it, but everything we've seen in the trailer is very cliched. It's very formulaic, it's very by the book. It's very, hey, you want to find your long lost brother? Hey, he treasures something for the gold. Hey, if you get my way, I'm gonna beat you up. Hey, you got no idea who you're dealing with. Hey, don't do this thing, it makes you look stupid. All these are things I've seen it done riffed 100 times, a million times before. It's all been done. It's the reason why the Mission Impossible films are considered one of the best action films of all time is because they do something that feels fresh, more or less fresh and original. And even when it's something that's been done before, they put their own kind of very distinct spin on it. I don't particularly think there's anything in here that sells that to me. So at the moment, I'm going to watch it. Or at least I try to. I'm so busy. I tend to only watch Marvel films in cinemas, and that's not because I think Marvel's like run through cinemas, because I don't like being left behind narrative wise, and so I kind of want to watch films, find out know where this narrative is, and know a film has the same level of kind of coming out every year. Do that. So I'll probably try and watch this. I might miss it and end up just streaming it. Or I might end up never watching it at all. I think there's a couple of films I've done reactions to and haven't actually ended up watching. But yeah, I don't know. I feel like if it wasn't an Uncharted IP, I wouldn't really even be doing this reaction to it. And seeing in the trailer, I mean, nothing about it seems particularly impressive. Nothing about it seems impressive as a standalone, and nothing of it seems impressive as an adaptation, because I don't get the same connections to the original characters. So those are my thoughts. Let me know if you agree, disagree, and I'll see you guys in the future. I was considering possibly streaming some gameplay tonight. Well, also I have to be up in about 10 hours for a radio show. So listen to NSL Live at 10 o'clock in the morning, because I'm on a comedy show then. So probably not. Anyways, thanks a lot, guys, and blah 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 words.